Yes, so I did wanted to go out there and talk about this particular player because he's been dominating the NHL. It's crazy. The Utah Hockey Club have come in here, taking the reins, taking the ashes, taking the shrapnel from the Arizona Coyotes, and reassembling it into a being that is capable of taking multiple teams out to start out the season. They built this in a cave, ladies and gentlemen. Tony Stark built this in a... Okay, we're not going to do that. Today we're talking about the Utah Hockey Club and the top goal scorer on the team. A player who happens to be the top goal scorer in the league, and with 5 goals in 3 games, has taken over as one of the NHL's young superstars. Today we are talking about, with 5 goals on the year, Dylan Guenther. Now, the thing is, Guenther, if you look at the point production, he has 5 goals, yes, but he's got 0 assists, so he is only at 5 points on the season, but that still is good enough to being one of the top scorers in the league. He's in a pretty big tie for 5th overall. Only 4 players in the league have more points than Dylan Guenther does, although it should be noted that there are about 10 guys who have 5 total points. Elias Lindholm is one of them. What the hell? Seriously? Okay. There are a bunch of Utah Hockey Club guys here, too, that also have point production. Barrett Hayton, Logan Cooley, of course you've got the captain Clayton Keller gone out there with points as well. This Utah club has been buzzing and they've been winning games as a result. However, with Dylan Guenther, it's been very apparent that he has been one of the primary trigger guys for the Utah Hockey Club to open up this season, and it's very evident in the kinds of goals that he is scoring. On the rush one-timers, power play one-timers, using that right-handed shot to just unleash pucks towards the goal. And this is, admittedly, what we all thought Guenther was going to be when he was initially taken by the Arizona Coyotes in the 9th overall spot in the 2021 draft. Big guy, powerful stride, and a pristine shot. In the WHL, he posted up 91 points in 59 games, including 45 goals in his draft plus 1 year. The year before that, he was at a goal a game and an assist per game for 2 total points per game, although that was the weird COVID season. Either way, as Guenther progressed throughout his NHL career, he did spend some time in the AHL. He did bounce around different organizations before stabilizing himself with 35 points in 45 Arizona games. Now in Utah, he's got 5 goals in 3 games and is on pace for 137 total goals. He's not going to hit that, nor is he going to stay at 0 assists the entire year. But Dylan Guenther is one of these guys that is leading the NHL in points and is the #1 goal guy too. Now, the reason I'm making this video about the Vancouver Canucks, and not just focusing on Utah, because believe me, the Utah story is a good one. The team is still undefeated at the time of recording this audio. I want to talk about Vancouver because a lot of Canucks fans over the past few days or so have really been cynical. They've got reasons to be cynical. The team's not performing well. They're underperforming. A lot of their top guys are not showing up in the ways we think they should. And the team has lost 2 straight games to kick off the year wherein they had leads in the 3rd period and eventually blew them. The Canucks fan base is in a pretty fragile spot. And that doesn't get any better when Canucks fans acknowledge that Dylan Guenther, in particular, is the main triggerman goal guy for the Utah Hockey Club. Because, of course, I think most fans recognize this, but the Arizona Coyotes initially drafted Dylan Guenther with the Vancouver Canucks' 1st round pick in that season. You have Canucks fans going out there and cynically saying, hey man, look at Jim Benning. Look at that crazy mistake that Benning made to send away this pick to gift the Arizona Coyotes and Utah Hockey Club the #1 goal scorer in the league. A guy who was locked on till 2033, making $7.1 million a year, a contract that doesn't even start until a year from now. He is still on his ELC, and now he's the top NHL goal guy. I'm not saying that's going to stay the way it is. He's not going to finish off winning the Rocket Richard Trophy, but he will probably be a 30-goal scorer this year, if not a 35-goal scorer, or maybe even 40. Who knows? The fact is, though, the Vancouver Canucks had the pick that was used to take this guy, and fans have been really cynical about it. Here's the thing, and I wanted to bring this up also on the channel. A lot of people are going out there and saying that the trade itself did bring Vancouver some value, Because if you refer back to the Canucks and their trade history, you'll see that the Vancouver Canucks sent away that first-round pick, plus a 7th, plus a 2nd, plus Beagle, Roussel, and Eriksson in exchange for Oliver Ekman-Larsson and Connor Garland. A lot of people will turn to OEL and say that trade was a huge loss, that OEL was terrible in Vancouver, that he got bought out, and now his contract is on the Canucks payroll in a buyout capacity till literally next decade. Not a great win when you consider the fact that Beagle, Eriksson, and Roussel's contracts were expiring a year after the trade was made, and that first-round pick ended up being 9th overall. You think about that, and you say, alright, well, the Canucks really could have capitalized more on building the youth with a guy like Guenther. He's a really strong forward with a beautiful shot, a right-handed guy. Canucks could have used more of those. If you had that on the Vancouver Canucks right now, that would be a really nice trigger man alongside of EP, Besser, and DeBrusk. And then you have yourselves the lack of roster flexibility with the OEL buyout and his contract. Just an overall disaster move, but one that may not bear all doom and gloom. Because everybody's talking about Connor Garland as a response to this discourse about Dylan Guenther. Oh yeah, the Vancouver Canucks acquired Garland in that trade. Some folks have been proclaiming adamantly on social media that between Garland and Guenther, Garland is a playoff performer, he is a workhorse, he is a dog, and he's one of these guys that helps the Canucks in their current roster construction play that disciplined, talk-it style of hockey, and as a result, it's not all too bad of a transaction losing out on the opportunity to draft Guenther for Garland. But then again, Dylan Guenther is a potential 40-goal, maybe even a 45-goal guy in the future. So you would have to assume that there's some extra value there for this guy who's only 21 years old at the moment. He's leading the league in goals. And then you have even further conversation as to whether or not the Vancouver Canucks really would have made the right choice if they did not make that OEL Garland trade. Sure, back in the 2021 draft, at the 9th overall spot, Dylan Guenther was essentially the guy that was supposed to go in that spot if you went by all the projected rankings. He was the next best player available in the eyes of many scouts and analysts, but Jim Benning in the 2021 draft did take some pretty interesting swings, especially in the later rounds. So the question then becomes, who does he take? If Jim Benning drafts 9th overall, the OEL Garland trade isn't made, who's to say that he would even take a guy like Dylan Guenther? Who's to say that he doesn't go out there and take Cole Sillinger, or Coronado, or Tyler Boucher, or Isaac Rozan? Who's guaranteeing that Jim Benning would have drafted the right guy at 9th overall? Because goodness gracious knows that this guy, Jim Benning, has definitely not been in the territory of making the next best pick available in the past. In 2015, Brock Besser was not supposed to be the next guy. They took him, and it worked out. 2017, the Canucks took Elias Pettersson over Cody Glass and Casey Middlestad. That was seen as a really interesting and kind of questionable move at the time. Sure, it worked out, but in the times that it doesn't work out, you get picks like 2016 Olli Juolevi, where they took him over the consensus Matthew Tkachuk, and the Canucks are still burned from that decision to this very moment. If the Canucks had the 2021 pick, would they have taken Guenther? Nobody's guaranteeing that. And I'm not using that as a primary excuse to say, oh yeah, it means that the trade was a good one for Vancouver, because it wasn't. I mean, certainly the opportunity to draft a guy like Guenther and keeping the cap flexibility with no OEL buyout and contract would have been more useful to the team than what they ended up getting. But at the end of the day, there are some nuances that make this situation a lot less black and white than, oh, the trade was great for Arizona, bad for Vancouver. Oh, OEL is a bad player, Dylan Guenther is a good player. There are a lot of extra things that need to be discussed here in order to fully get a picture as to the situation, but at the end of the day, it still does sting. I'm not going to discredit that. Dylan Guenther is a beast. He is one of the best young players in the NHL, and he's going to continue being one of these players in that age range to completely dominate and take control of the NHL's goal-scoring race and Utah Hockey Club's productivity. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Dylan Guenther's hot start and the Utah Hockey Club being undefeated. How do you feel about the Vancouver Canucks trading away the pick that was used to select Dylan Guenther, and how this entire trade has evolved into OEL, Beagle, Roussel, and that cap disaster of the early 2020s? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99, and bye.